Developers' core design had not stopped dropping games since 1996. They started it all with Tomb Raider. Then in 97 gave us the sequel, which pushed the franchise with its bigger levels and heavy focus on combat. Now we move to 1998. Tomb Raider 3 has a lot to live up to, especially when Tomb Raider 2 brought so much to the table. Could developers' core design pull off a three-peat? Or has so many frequent releases caused a burnout with the audience and the developers? Tomb Raider 1 was an action-adventure puzzle platformer with some combat to add. Tomb Raider 2 was similar to the first, but focused way more on combat, open environments, and introduced vehicles. Now Tomb Raider 3 feels like a return to the first game while borrowing what worked in Tomb Raider 2. The direction for Tomb Raider 3 was to put Lara back in the role of being an acrobatic daredevil. Platforming and puzzle solving are the stars this time around, and personally, this is where the franchise is at its best. Lara's physics, speed, and animations are crafted so masterfully in the first game that moving away from her strong suits would be counterproductive. Moving away from what works would be as silly as giving Mario a jetpack or Shadow a gun. Yeah. Which is why I'm so happy that core design gave Lara a few new extra moves in her arsenal when it came to her platforming, and not things that don't make sense. As I've been working my way through the Tomb Raider Remastered collection, I've been learning more and more about how Tomb Raider works at its core. Tomb Raider works on a grid-based system. The easiest way to understand this is by actually looking at the floor in the game. Most stages you can see that the floors are made of different tiles. Lara is coded to jump right at the edge of a tile, if positioned correctly. Hopping back from an edge is enough distance to complete a full jump. Lara will jump after 2 steps, which is why if you try jumping beforehand, she won't. This gameplay design adds to the sense of weight in Lara's physics. She lingers in the air with each jump. She feels heavy, which makes controlling her feel stiff, but accurate. It's something that newcomers will need to get used to, but once you do, there's nothing like it. Tomb Raider 3 adds to Lara's mechanics, making her even better at raiding tombs. Lara has always been a spry young woman. She can leap high, flip in many directions, as well as climb and roll her way out of trouble. New to Tomb Raider 3 is crawling, sprinting, and she can now do this monkey swing mechanic by grabbing hold of certain surfaces above her. Crawling is one of the more common new mechanics. Lara will squeeze herself into tight vents and pathways. These claustrophobic situations can be pretty dark, so remember to light a flare before heading in, as she can't light one as she's crawling. Crawling isn't just for getting through tight spaces though. There are a few dangerous hazards that can be easily avoided by getting on all fours. You can also shoot while crouching. I'm not sure if this makes it harder for Lara to be shot, but there were times that crouch shooting allowed me to get a good angle on my opponent. Plus, I just think it looks pretty cool. There are some new additions added to the remastered version as well. Lara can dive roll, which was actually a cut feature from this game, and flip out of spaces while crawling, meaning she doesn't have to turn around to get out of small spaces. Throughout this review, you may be wondering why I don't use these new features that much. Well, it's because I had no idea these were even in the game. I like to play my games blind, so I don't get influenced by others' opinions, and the only way you will even know that they added these things back in the game is if you follow the developer updates on the remastered collection. Thankfully, none of these new additions are important to the overall experience, but the developers really should have provided some in-game tips for newcomers that don't know that these are even in the game. Sprinting is a cool new idea, but it's sort of underused. In fact, there's a puzzle early in the game that I'm pretty sure I was supposed to use sprinting on, but I almost forgot the mechanic existed, so I just kind of finagled my way through. Now sure, you could sprint wherever you want, making Lara get through stages a bit quicker, but I rarely did that. Instead, there are time-sensitive moments where sprinting is required. Running from hazards is made to feel intense due to how Lara locks all the way in as she runs. She is harder to turn while sprinting, and can quickly run out of energy. Lara can dive out of a sprint, which is explained in the tutorial. I can only think of one time where this was useful, And like I said, due to sprinting itself being rarely used, I forgot I could even do this. I like the ability overall and hope they put it more to use in Tomb Raider 4. Unlike sprinting, the monkey swing is used to its fullest. Lara will swing her way across dangerous gaps throughout her adventure. The simple mechanics made better by the physics in Lara's movements. The way she sways as she moves and the sense of weight makes what ultimately is a glorified follow the path segment seem different than just walking. From time to time, there will be hazards along her way, and some daring jumps are needed to grab hold of these monkey bars. The biggest challenge isn't even in the swinging itself, but it's in seeing what areas are made to be swung from. I'll touch more on this issue later, but not being able to see aside, the monkey swing is one of my favorite new features, and it's such a no-brainer to be added to Lara's skill set that I'm actually surprised it wasn't added in Tomb Raider 2. Now, thanks to my viewers, I actually learned of an exploit that you can use while platforming. I'm not sure what the community calls it, but I call it walk hopping. Remember I said Lara will do a big leap after 2 steps? Well, if you walk, then let go and jump, she will do a long jump just like if she ran. This ultimately is more of a speedrunning technique, but I actually had to use it a few times in my normal playthrough. It's useful in a pinch and can be a quicker way of getting around. All you have to do is walk 1 step, then quickly hop, and she'll leap forward. I just felt like mentioning this because I thought it was cool and it may be helpful to some newcomers that are trying to get through some tough situations. Most of these new mechanics can be learned in the tutorial, which again is Lara's home. Lara has done some remodeling again, adding back in her indoor training room and upgrading her outdoor course to feature a shooting range. Her butler even gets in on the fun this time. There were some weird issues with bugs in the tutorial, however. For whatever reason, the dialogue just stops when you get to this part in the exercise course. I don't think this will hinder anyone's progress, but it should be fixed regardless. There are secrets like before, one oddly being a racetrack. It's kind of weird to have something that can teach the player basic driving controls locked behind a secret, but that's the 90s for you. She also got rid of her treasure room for a nice lounge area with a giant fish enclosure. And now you can even leave her home to start your new adventure instead of going through the menu. One thing I wish we could do one of these days is actually drive Lara's classic blue motorcycle. Maybe we'll get that in some newer game that tries to recapture the old school classic game's feeling. Despite the title of the series, Lara will explore way more than just tombs. There are 5 worlds with 3 to 4 levels each. Lara will visit India, the South Pacific, Nevada, London, and Antarctica. Each world has a different theme, which adds more than just a visual change. India and the South Pacific focus more on Lara battling the odds with nature. Because these are more tribal areas, you face the classic lineup of Lara's foes: spikes, boulders, animals, booby traps, and of course, a steep fall to your death. There are also new mechanics introduced in these environments. Lara now has to deal with poisonous snakes. These guys aren't the only ones that can poison Lara, but they are the first that you'll come across. Poison goes away from a med kit and can be something that kills you if you aren't paying attention to your health. But I have to say, it happens so slowly and the bar flickers on the screen, I don't think it's really ever going to get anybody that's really paying attention. Another new obstacle for Lara is quicksand. Lara will have to slowly push her way through before she drowns. Quicksand can be tricky to navigate through due to the slow movement. There are hidden places under the sand that will lift Lara up so that she can breathe. But as far as I can tell, it's a guessing game. My best recommendation for you is to save before hopping into any quicksand and to beeline it to the edge so that you can pull yourself out of it. I like the concept overall, and it fits the environmental puzzle solving gameplay. Nevada starts off like any other Tomb Raider level. Platforming through the rocky desert is made perfect thanks to all the new climbing mechanics. The world shifts to an unexpected prison break sequence, and Lara loses all her weapons and must escape with only her wits and a bit of help from the fellow prisoners. This reminds me a lot of another level from Tomb Raider 2, but thankfully there was nothing absurd as the propeller of 1997. This level is all about flipping switches and unlocking doors, all while Lara is completely defenseless. Your fellow prisoners can take guards out for you, and they can even get Lara out of a few jams that she otherwise wouldn't be able to. It was a fun idea that was well executed, and you even get to visit Area 51. London is the most populated world in the game. Lara begins with an outdoor area full of buildings she must scale in order to progress through her journey. She ends up in Tomb Raider 3's most infamous stage, Aldwych, an abandoned train station crawling with thugs, crazed dogs, and some interesting secrets that should excite any YouTube conspiracy theorists. If you go online right now, you can easily find so many people hating on Aldwych that it's become worth warning others new to the game about it. I should know, as I was informed of its torturous design in my comment section. Aldwych is an underground maze full of traps, enemies, items you need to progress, and something so poorly designed that I almost lost my mind. People's biggest annoyance with the stage is its maze-like structure. This level actually has a straightforward flow to it at first. I was able to make my way through many of its puzzles and thugs. Now I did get hit by a train or two, but it was mostly a smooth experience. One of my favorite parts was racing against this drill coming down on Lara. You gotta be pretty quick on your feet here, as one mishap and you're done for. What got me stomped was the Masonic Temple. This is a small room with a few locked doors and a secret room behind a curtain. This is where Tomb Raider 3 does something that no other mainline game has done before. You see, I spent a few hours in this room trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing. I saw 2 keyholes, but I didn't know where to find the keys. I got some strange cogwheel, but nowhere to put it. I ran in circles like a madman trying to see what I was missing. It didn't help that the devs left these blocks grabbable, which I'm pretty sure was a mistake, and that made me want to stay in this room as I was thinking I was overlooking something. I finally exhausted all my options and decided to backtrack. Returning back to the starting area, I remembered these locked doors and looked for a way to open them. This is where I saw the genius in Aldwych, as this stage was way more than what it appeared to be. It goes from being a normal train station to it being clearly abandoned, adding an element of mystery. Then there's the Masonic Temple, that to even get access to, you have to do a switch puzzle that involves you closing and shutting doors that could lead to a dead end, but if you do it just right, you'll end up in the Masonic Temple. Going deeper underground, there's an old vault full of looted safes and even more train stations to get lost in. This stage takes the expanded level design introduced in Tomb Raider 2, but instead of dumping you in one huge area with no sense of direction, it gives you pockets of areas to visit while asking the player to backtrack once certain set pieces have already taken place. This is what I believe has so many people upset over Aldwych. I have never played a level in Tomb Raider that was designed to be like a maze and had so much backtracking. Anyone accustomed to Tomb Raider's formula probably got stuck trying to do what they thought was right. Once I realized what Aldwych was, I really enjoyed the change of pace. However, there is one major issue with this level, and I'm not sure if it's due to the remaster or if this is something that the base game had, but it's a problem and it needs to be fixed. At the very end of the stage, Lara must open a door with a crowbar to flip a switch to board a discarded train. Once inside, she flips another switch, which opens the hatchet to escape. In the last stretch of the stage, you run after 2 thugs and take them out, but there's a room to the side with a few switches. These switches open the door to the train again and some other door that I never actually was able to find. My curiosity got the better of me, so I went back to find what I was missing. Besides, I also had this weird cogwheel from the Illuminati room that I mentioned and thought it had something to do with this door I just unlocked. Now, like I said, I couldn't find the door that I just opened, but I did find where the cogwheel was supposed to go. Ready to see the rest of London, I headed back to the exit, but the train was locked. That's weird because I went through this door a few times and it never locked before. So I went back to the chain door and it's shut? What? Dude, I started freaking out. I retraced my steps thinking I must have done something to lock the door again, but no. This door, for whatever reason, magically closed itself and it soft locked me from completing the level. I was so upset because I thought I had to replay the stage over again. I think what made the door close was unlocking the cog door. That's just a guess on my end because like I said, I went through this train door multiple times before I figured out where the cog went. But once I opened that door, I returned and now the train is locked. I even went online to find help and others experienced a similar issue. And the only solution was to do Aldwych all over again. Thank God that he showed me another way. I went on the old YouTube and found a speed running glitch to get past the door. I basically clipped my way through the wall to get to the other side. The crazy thing is I had already beaten the level before and I decided to reload to see what I missed. The thing is, I didn't save the game once I hit the new stage because I had already saved the game on the previous stage right at the end, so I figured reloading and starting over to figure out what I missed wouldn't be a big deal. But who would have thought that I could have potentially had to do the whole stage over again, and for what? A freaking blue crystal that does nothing? This seriously should be patched and fixed. The worst part is that those doors at the end encourage you to backtrack and explore. Being punished for doing what the game motivated me to do is freaking insane. The last world is Antarctica and it's pretty chill. This is one of my favorite worlds in the game. It introduced a new mechanic to swimming. Lara must quickly swim through icy water and get out in time before she freezes to death. There's also a huge emphasis on horror elements the further you go into this stage. A gauntlet of platforming challenges are also here and the controversial mine carts. It's an amazing final world to any game and arguably one of my favorite out of the Tomb Raider collection. Tomb Raider 3 has the most diverse lineup of levels of any game in the collection. Tomb Raider 1 was so strict to its namesake that you don't see Lara outside of a tomb very much, and levels overall were small, but at least they were easy to read. Now, Tomb Raider 2 brought Lara out of the dark caves and into a big open environment, but at the cost of some areas overstaying their welcome and being so big that sometimes it was hard to know where to go. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, I think Tomb Raider 2 might have had like only one tomb in the entire game. Talk about getting lost in the sauce, right? Tomb Raider 3, however, combines the best of both worlds. Areas are more diverse than Tomb Raider 1 and 2. Each stage introduces a drastically different playstyle and locations from the next, so it never gets stale. Even in the same world, you're going to see different themes and different set pieces that you didn't see in the previous section of the stage. There was never a dull moment while playing, and unlike Tomb Raider 2, I rarely got lost, but I did run into a few issues. Tomb Raider 3, just like the games before, is full of troll moments designed by the devs. You will see a path forward only to try it and get crushed, eaten, drowned, or set ablaze. But thanks to my good old Tomb Raider knowledge that I gained from the past two games, I would realize it's time to try a new strategy if what I'm doing isn't working. And trust me, the devs did design spots that make it seem like a jump is possible, only to learn that the solution is elsewhere. An issue I did face was not being able to read certain parts of the environment well. Surfaces made to monkey swing can be hard to distinguish at times. The texture is different, to be fair, but sometimes it was so similar to other textures that it was honestly hard to notice the difference. There are many times I couldn't even see them either, but I'll touch more on that when I get to the graphics. There was another weird situation in the South Pacific where this cave plays this secret room song. For those that don't know, the tune plays when you find a secret area with goodies, which are not the main path to follow. So after hearing this sound, I turned around only to find a cave where I was getting eaten by piranhas over and over again. After dying repeatedly, I returned to what I thought was the secret room, only to realize, no, this is the main path. I'm supposed to go in this direction. The issue is I couldn't even see that you could monkey swing above you, plus by hearing this sound effect, I thought that I was in a secret environment. So once I exhausted all my options, I just left. Now, not every situation where I got hung up on something is a flaw in my eyes. Sometimes the devs made things clear, but I simply got caught up in thinking I was doing the right thing. In this same level, I got stuck on this ledge, thinking I could somehow jump down. This was entirely just my fault, as I had just opened the door that I entirely forgot about because I got hung up on this ledge thinking I could jump down, and I was busy dying over and over again trying to figure out how to make it. Another troll moment by the devs was in Nevada. This damn area has a few switches that you need to pull in order to move forward. I found one that did open this door, then I found another one inside, but the switch didn't seem to do anything. I ran all around trying to find out where to go, and I couldn't figure it out what I was doing wrong. Only to return and realize that they had put a switch above Lara that can be hard to spot if you aren't paying attention. This is not like in previous games where due to the remaster they made the switches so dark you couldn't see them, but oh, we're going to talk about that later because that does still happen. But this is just the developers putting something in plain sight, and I just happened to miss it. Moments like these were few and far between. I can thankfully say that Tomb Raider 3 is more like Tomb Raider 1. Rarely are there confusing moments or times where the flow of the levels take a nosedive. There are some janky moments, however, that's found mostly in the vehicles. Tomb Raider 2 introduced vehicles to the franchise, and Tomb Raider 3 expands upon it. Driving controls are different this time around. You accelerate with the X button and brake with the square button. I figured out how to drive by screwing around with the controls, but it would have been nice if they explained the controls to me. The secret tutorial racetrack doesn't even explain to you how to drive, which is very weird. Lara will be riding on a quad bike, a kayak, a boat, minecart, and an underwater propulsion unit? Yeah, I'm not gonna say all that, man. It's a water bike. We're calling it a water bike. It's a water bike. Each vehicle serves as a break from the typical platforming that Tomb Raider is loved for. The only real issue is that it isn't always the smoothest of rides. The quad bike feels fine, but they put it on some really bumpy terrain. I know that makes perfect sense on paper, but this game's driving physics weren't ironed out yet, so it can feel more janky than bumpy. The Nevada stage also has a quad bike, but no bumpy roads, and it feels way better there. Then you have the kayak. This was the most impressive vehicle in the game. Lara has to actually paddle left and right to not only steer, but battle the rapid waters trying to take her out. This track is full of death traps and tricky moments, adding more to the challenge. You have to control the speed of the boat, as falling too hard can take Lara out. Sure, it's not perfect as the kayak can bump all around and you can even paddle upstream, but overall it was a fun and unique experience. Reminded me of Disney Splash Mountain for some reason. The boat is pretty straightforward. It's used to get through the freezing waters of the Arctic region, and although there isn't anything exciting during your time on it, you do get a nice smooth ride, and Lara does get some time to rest her busy legs. The minecart is another infamous part of Tomb Raider 3. People either love or hate the minecart, and I'm on the side of loving it. The minecart is different as it's on rails. That should be pretty obvious to anyone that knows what a minecart is, but what I really mean to say is that you don't need to accelerate yourself. All you need to worry about is shifting Lara's weight from left to right, ducking to avoid getting bonked on the head, braking before you crash out, and switching lanes with your trusty wrench. The minecart is more of a moving puzzle than a proper vehicle, and its inclusion really stamped Lara Croft as an honorary Kong. Now the water bike, this bad boy on paper was genius. Tomb Raider has had its fair share of swimming sections, and giving Lara a faster way to get around along with the ability to defend herself at the same time made all the sense in the world to me. Yeah, you see, there's one big problem though with this whole water bike thing. See, Lara, she needs this thing, it's called oxygen. The water bike section is a tight puzzle with small rooms with switches that you need to pull in order to move forward. Lara has to slowly get on and get off this bike, then slowly pull the lever, all the while she's quickly losing breath which can make this whole area difficult. To be clear, the vehicle itself works extremely well. It controls well, Lara feels good on it. It's just the setting they put it in. It's too tight, it's too enclosed. I actually use a glitch to get more oxygen by idly riding along the cracks in the ceiling to refill Lara's air. It was so many places to do this in, I began to think that this was intentionally kept into the game. The idea of having to pull all these switches in this area with the water bite was a solid idea, but maybe next time give the player a bigger playing space or a way to refill Lara's oxygen without having to fully get out of the water or glitch your way up into the ceiling. Even Crash Bandicoot handled this better, and Lara should be able to keep up with him. They're both PlayStation All-Stars, aren't they? Lara is a big-time collector, so it only makes sense that she'll be finding a few things on her journey. Lara will find health items, guns, ammo, key items for progression, and these strange blue gems. I'm pretty sure you can guess what health items do, as they fill your health bar back up from taking damage. Health items are easy to find, just like Tomb Raider 1. The flares return, one of my favorite features introduced in the second game. Flares light up the darkness, and although it's not as many dark areas as before, these bad boys really come in handy when everything goes black. Now it could be because there are less dark areas in this game where flares are needed, but I felt like I never ran out of flares. I always had a full stack of them and never needed to search for any. It also could be just my imagination, but it feels like flares die faster in Tomb Raider 3 than they did in 2. Hidden around the stages and even on some bad guys, Lara will find key items to help her along in her journey. Once an item is used, it leaves Lara's inventory, like the games before it. But there is one item that's a bit different. The crowbar in Antarctica will drop on the ground after it has been used. Clearly, the devs are trying to experiment with having an item be used multiple times without disappearing out your inventory. And maybe due to the engine or the time that they had on the game, they couldn't just code it in to stay on the player after it was used. This isn't a complaint, by the way. As someone who has made a few games myself, I fully understand the struggle of trying to implement new mechanics but not necessarily having the time to do it how you want to. And this also is pretty cool because it just hints to future improvements to the Tomb Raider formula. Another creative item used is this map. Lara must use this map to navigate through the quicksand. Having to go back and forth to the map to platforming was a cool way of simulating pulling a map up to Lara's face so she could read it. I know today this is primitive design, but I love how they reworked an existing mechanic to have a new purpose. Then we have these blue gems. In the original Tomb Raider 3, you would use these to save your game. In the remastered version, however, they are just collectibles. Now, if you are missing that, you can just play the game on New Game Plus once you beat the game, and then they'll return to being saving and healing items. I never played Tomb Raider 3 before this remaster, so to me, I have no issue with this change. In Tomb Raider 2, bad guys will always drop ammo and sometimes health, meaning you would rarely find ammo just lying around. Tomb Raider 3 goes back to Tomb Raider 1's design of most ammo pickups being found by exploring the map. On occasion, a foe may drop ammo or health, but it's very rare. So make sure you save your ammo, as you won't know the next time you'll find some. Speaking of ammo, what about the guns? Lara Croft is no stranger to the Second Amendment. This British bombshell has enough weapons to take down a small village. And she literally does in the game. She racks up a huge body count by the end of the game, but not as much as she did in her second adventure. Lara once again keeps her twin pistols strapped to her hips. These bad boys are Lara's greatest companions and will get her out of many jams. They never run out of ammo, they sound amazing, but damage is on the low side. Most enemies will die in a respectable amount of time, but bosses and late game foes will take longer. The pistols also lack range, so anyone that's too far off into the distance, Lara won't be able to lock onto them. The shotgun is back, baby, and it's as good as it ever was. Unlike Tomb Raider 2, you don't start off with it in your inventory, but it's not hard to find. The shotgun deals heavy damage, but sucks at longer ranges. Just like the first game, ammo is hard to come by, so you want to use your pump action when you really need it. New to Tomb Raider 3 is the Desert Eagle, which replaces the automatic pistols from Tomb Raider 2, which I think is a good thing because I felt they were too close in proximity to the Uzis. The Desert Eagle is very powerful and it isn't compromised by Lara's flips at all. Ammo for it is more common than other weapons, but I still would save most of it. It's perfect for the endgame where stronger bad guys are around every corner. The MP5 is the substitute for the assault rifle from Tomb Raider 2. This gun is all about mowing down bad guys from a distance with a flurry of bullets. Unlike the assault rifle, the MP5 isn't held back by Lara's daring flips. She will still get off a good amount of rounds while jumping about, removing the biggest annoyance found with the assault rifle from Tomb Raider 2. Ammo is a bit more common to find, so I would capitalize on using it to take out anyone from a distance. The Uzis really haven't changed much. They do the same amount of damage as the base pistols, but because they shoot so fast, you'll be doing a lot more damage quicker. I didn't get these guys until the late game into my playthrough, but they are as useful as they were before. Ammo for it was not that common, but like I said, as long as you hold on to that Desert Eagle ammo, I would say just use them to have a bit of fun. Now the harpoon gun, man, this gun right here is a very odd weapon. It's really only important for underwater fights, but those are so rare in this game that the improvements that they made upon the harpoon gun from Tomb Raider 2 are just, they don't matter. I actually found plenty of ammo for it, but again, with no real reason to use it, it just ended up being in my inventory. The harpoon shoots faster than it did before, and it reloads quicker as well. If this was the harpoon we got in Tomb Raider 2, which actually had a bunch of different environments and set pieces to actually use it, it would have been a crazy weapon there. But here, it's just okay because there's no reason to use it. The grenade launcher and the rocket launcher are our last two weapons. The grenade launcher now works as expected with bouncing bombs instead of them shooting straight forward like they did in Tomb Raider 2. The rocket launcher now takes that place. I wouldn't be surprised if they just reused the code from the original grenade launcher and just applied a rocket launcher skin over the top of it because it essentially works like the grenade launcher for Tomb Raider 2. It does have a lot more damage, the rocket launcher, and ammo for both is pretty hard to come by, but it's way more harder to find rockets than there are to find grenades. These are perfect for boss fights if you want to drain their health like crazy, and it is fun to use on regular enemies because typically they'll explode into many pieces. Lara's lineup of weapons has never been better. There really are no misses here, and the new additions are welcomed. Tomb Raider 2 really upped the arsenal, and Tomb Raider 3 expanded upon it. It's just too bad that the game's structure really just counteracts these efforts. Every Tomb Raider game followed a linear path. Lara would travel from location to location based on how the story progressed. Tomb Raider 3 actually introduced player choice by allowing you to decide where you want to go. After beating India, you can decide between the South Pacific, London, and Nevada, with Antarctica being the final destination. I really like this change to the formula. I was actually pretty shocked to see this world map just pop up for the first time. Allowing the player to decide where they want to go to first is a mechanic I hope continues in Tomb Raider 4. The problem is the balancing that came with this alteration. Due to the player being able to take Lara anywhere they want, each world's difficulty starts off the same. Now, in the grand scheme of things, this is not a big deal when it comes to the core design of the gameplay, which is more about platforming and puzzle solving. It does, however, negatively impact the gun battles. Every level is treated as if you are coming in with just your base pistols and limited items. What that means is most enemies are made weak for the majority of the stages because the devs have no idea of knowing if you have more powerful weapons on you, which is why I mainly use my pistols throughout this entire game. Enemies aren't as plentiful or aggressive as they were in Tomb Raider 2. Ammo overall is harder to come by, and saving your best guns for powerful bad guys is the best strategy. So what ends up happening is most of these powerful weapons go unused for the most of your playthrough. Now, of course, you don't have to do what I did. You can use whatever gun you have on hand, but don't be surprised if you forget to do so because your base pistols work just fine for the majority of situations, which does help you in one area. There is a trophy for beating the game using only your pistols, and I'm sure the late game area will be difficult, but for the most of the game, it'll be pretty easy. I covered the weapons, but who exactly are we fighting? Lara went from fighting mostly animals in Tomb Raider 1 to fighting mostly humans in Tomb Raider 2, and now we finally struck a balance. See, Lara hates everyone equally. She doesn't discriminate. The interesting part is with the new AI designed for Lara's ops. You may notice that bad guys sometimes run away from Lara. Typically, if you're dealing with a human that only does melee damage, they'll run away from Lara as bullets fly from her gun. But even armed foes may back up and retreat and try to get a better position when Lara is shooting at them. Enemies now have a sense of awareness, giving the game a stealth element that I think fits perfectly for Tomb Raider. Now, a cool feature I really like is that armed enemies can shoot right before dying. This was pretty cool to find out, especially when I died from it the first time. AI was also improved with the companion system. Tomb Raider 2 had NPCs that would help Lara out as long as you did not attack them. And trust me, people in the comment section, I heard you. I know that the monks will help you, but I'm telling you, I didn't attack these guys and they still attacked me, so I just said screw it. Thankfully, this time around, the AI is more forgiving. Every world has some variation of allies to get to know. My favorite are the little monkeys in India. These little guys will find items and even guide Lara on her adventure. But then, this happened. This monkey grabbed the key I needed to move forward, but he just refused to drop it. They normally dropped every other item, so I just waited around to see what he'll do. After waiting for so long, it finally hit me that the devs want me to murder my monkey friend. They want me to kill this. What kind of sick person makes these cute little monkeys and then says, hey, you know what you gotta do now? You gotta go kill him, Lara. Go kill him, player. I don't want to kill my monkey friends, and you know what? I didn't. I refuse to kill my monkey buddy. I'm not doing it. So I reloaded the save until I found a sneaky little way to grab the key before him. Unfortunately, all my efforts were in vain. This is a scripted event, and by the next stage, my monkey buddies hated me. I also thought they gave me some dino babies as friends too. Their mama had just died, and I thought they may have thought Lara was their new mama, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, but they started biting my leg, and now I have to turn them into dino nuggets, and it just is what it is, man. It's a cruel world out here. The rest of Lara's companions are your fellow man. From prisoners, thugs, and researchers, these guys will fight alongside you and help you solve some puzzles. I was sort of shocked to see that this guy could climb on ledges too. Now maybe that was in Tomb Raider 2, but like I said, me and the monks didn't get along so much. Overall, the AI was more advanced than it was in Tomb Raider 2, and I even killed one of the guys not knowing he was on my side, and guess what? The rest of them didn't aggro on me. So like I said, they're even more forgiving this time. Lara isn't just fighting grunts. Tomb Raider 3 has 4 bosses in total, and this is a big step up from previous games. Most of them involve Lara dodging and shooting in small arenas. These guys are very powerful and can one-shot you most of the time. The first boss, Tony, is actually extremely easy. All you need to do is flip from side to side, dodging each attack while firing. Now, Puna is a little bit trickier. Not only can he one-shot you, but he targets your last position. So you could actually hop your way right into a blast if you are in sync with your jumps. He also has a cooldown period where he spawns in a poisonous lizard. Keep in mind that this room is very small and you could easily fall off. Stay in rhythm, don't fall off, and don't break the direction of your hops. Now Sophia, or as the game says, Sophia, is the most interesting boss of all. Her fight is really a platforming puzzle. She will blast you with her stab, but it doesn't do much damage. Your bullets do nothing at all, and trying to jump across to her will send you flying right off. What you have to do is follow the path while avoiding her attacks. You will end up near an electrical box that once damaged will shock her to death. I really like this change of pace. Having this battle being won by using Lara's wits instead of her athleticism was nice, and it's very fitting for her because she's an extremely intelligent character. Now for the final boss, Willard. Willard is very shifty. He moves slow around this circular stage, and for the most part, isn't much of a threat. What will get you is his energy blast. These are instant death and cannot be dodged. He kept spamming me with these things over and over again. I thought this was the dumbest boss design ever. How am I supposed to fight this thing if he can instantly kill me whenever he feels like it? Mind you, in order to truly kill him, you must get the artifacts from around the room. Otherwise, he'll never die. I would take his health down, go get an artifact, then bam, blast it to smithereens. Then it dawned on me. These blasts must be triggered by something. If I ran around the circle, he would never shoot me. It's only when I went to go get an artifact that he would fire at me. There are also these mysterious lines on the floor too. I got it. Wheeler only blasts you if you cross the line before he is downed. He will also fire at you if you do not quickly make it back before he gets up. I was getting wrecked because I was stepping over the line while circling, and I wasn't sprinting to get the artifacts, which means I wouldn't make it in time before he would shoot at me. Once I figured it out, it was easy peasy. Tomb Raider 3 was a blast to play. From its combat to platforming, everything hit just right. Improving the gun battles while not overshadowing the bread and butter of Tomb Raider, which is its platforming. It's my favorite out of the trilogy for finally finding that balance in its core gameplay loop. Tomb Raider has always been a looker since the first game. Tomb Raider 3 looks even better with the remastered version, but let's not sleep on the classic graphics here. The different locations add a unique look that I feel that the previous games lacked. Tomb Raider 1 had Lara go through caves and ancient tombs. The levels felt like they were continuations of the previous one before it, but not necessarily in a different location. So stages could blend together visually. Tomb Raider 2 did a similar thing with its stages, but a little bit better. However, the underwater ship levels felt like they dragged on visually for how similar they were to each other. Tomb Raider 3 changes this by giving each stage a different visual look, emphasizing on certain elements within the stage to break up the monotony. London goes from this outside urban environment to an abandoned train station, then it takes you to a museum, and finally it ends with you back outside on the top of a skyscraper. Keep in mind that that's just the core of these stages. Each has pocket rooms that are visually distinct within them. I absolutely love Area 51 with the orcas and spaceship that is way bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. One big difference between the old and new graphics are the vibrancy of the colors and overall brightness. Switching to classic graphics, I would commonly see a more artistic approach to the color design, and 9 times out of 10, it's better than the muted remastered version. The vibrant blues of London or the reds and greens in the India temples really just disappear when you turn on those modern graphics. Levels originally dark are made completely visible as well. It makes sense for Lara to find herself in some dark places. After all, she is exploring ancient tombs. The remastered graphics making many of these darker areas brighter takes away from the tone core design intended for them. They even screwed up in other areas too. I got stuck in this room in Nevada because I was playing on the modern visuals and couldn't see this switch. I ran back to previous parts of the stage thinking I missed something, but it was due to the messed up lighting. I couldn't see many surfaces designed for monkey swinging because they were also too dark. A cool new challenge that pops up are these transparent floors. In both situations, I could not really see them, especially in the lava puzzle, without switching to the classic graphics. The modern graphics as a whole look amazing, but they really screwed up the lighting at times. Like here with this boulder, the modern graphics ruined the surprise attack. Lighting issues aside, I really did enjoy how Lara changed up her look when she went to different worlds. Sometimes it was just a color swap, while others she gets a new outfit based on the mission at hand or the climate that she's in. This makes Lara feel more like a real person rather than a video game character. She has to stay warm in the freezing cold. Exploring the hot jungle, she rocks her classic tank top and shorts. While sneaking around London at night, she embraces her inner Catwoman and straps on some leather. Nevada is known to be really hot during the day and really cold during the night in its deserts, so she threw on some pants for this occasion. My favorite level that complements Lara's drip is Antarctica. The bright orange coat against the many shades of blue is very beautiful. As someone that loves color theory, seeing the classic warm and cold colors together just does something for me. Anime fans should be very familiar with this color clash, as it is very popular there. Little details like this add to the player's experience, and seeing as Lara has done her fair share of photo shoots, it makes sense that she would have a sense of fashion. Modern graphics may have hit or miss lighting, but Lara herself looks way better here, even in the loading screens between stages. She's clearly more detailed and looks more like her CGI counterpart. The only thing I wish they did was give her better expressions. Her over-exaggerated expressions that you could find in screenshots of the original Tomb Raider 3 just look cool to me, and I wish that was actually in-game as well. The devs even mix visuals with puzzle solving this time around. There are a few instances where paying attention to signs in the environment will help you solve a puzzle. This is such a no-brainer that I'm surprised we didn't get more of these puzzles in this game. This is a great way to blend the art and gameplay, and we need more of it in Tomb Raider 4. There are some things I'd like to mention before we get into the story. I found what I assumed is a glitch with this climbable wall. You clearly aren't supposed to be able to do this, but I managed to pull it off. There was this weird audio issue here where my OBS was all the way in the red. Not sure why this happens, but if you slow down the fans, it goes away. I could see through the floor on the first stage with the modern graphics turned on, which isn't a good first impression. I don't think that this is a bug, but look how small this is. I really don't think this reads well to the player, especially when earlier in this stage, Lara can't climb into or drop out of this bigger hole. There's this sharp, annoying noise in this dark section in Antarctica. And they really could have left that out. I like how they rework moving blocks, doubling some of these as climbable surfaces. Tomb Raider 3 keeps the tradition of showing what some switches do and not others. This wasn't as annoying as it was in the second game, but it's still just weird to me why they would show what some switches do and others they don't. And what's with this door in Nevada? I know you're supposed to turn the electricity off, but come on. The door is open. It just looks odd that you could still get shocked here. Tomb Raider 3 overall was pretty polished, aside from this damn game-breaking glitch that should 100% be fixed. The only other complaint I could really make is, where's my manual? Older games came with game booklets that explain the controls and provide other important details not mentioned in game. I figured out things on my own for the most part, but needed to go online and read the manual for a few controls with the kayak. Heck, this game needs a manual anyway because the old manual wouldn't have told me the new controls that they added to the remaster with the new mechanics. So this game actually needs its own particular manual just for this version. I went through this complaint with every game in the collection and it's no different here. It should be available. If it wasn't for my curiosity, I wouldn't have learned that these games actually have a way for you to switch weapons without going into the main menu. This is going to be a bigger deal for younger gamers not aware to even check the manuals online. As many gamers today grew up without manuals, so how would they even know to look for a manual if they don't think manuals exist, if you get what I'm trying to say. The absence of a manual even affects the story too. Tomb Raider 3 begins with a meteor crashing on Earth millions of years ago. In present day, a group of researchers are drilling and blowing up half of Antarctica in search of something unknown. After some time, they find some headstones from an ancient civilization and the grave of Paul Caulfield. We now abruptly just jump to India where Lara is just chilling in the jungle. Why is she here? Well, I don't know because the game does not tell me why she's here. Now, I already know the comment section is going to tell me it does tell you why Lara is in India. But this is my issue. The game starts off with this very detailed backstory. It has this cool meteorite. You don't know what's going on. You see some researchers and then bam, you're just in India. I overall just think that this is an odd choice, but it's not that odd when you know what I know. And that's that the game does tell you these things if you have the manual. The manual not only explains why Lara is in India, but it sort of spoils the setup for Lara's big adventure. I don't know why both Tomb Raider 2 and 3 do this when the first game just explains Lara's motivations from the beginning, but it's an odd choice that I wish they would just stop. Moving along, Lara travels through the jungle and bumps into Tony, a weird researcher that seems to be talking gibberish. Lara asks about the Infada artifact. the whole reason why she's even in the region. Tony speaks of the temple having voodoo magic and that his companions are staying put inside the temple. Lara seems to be annoyed by Tony's odd speech as he walks off, taunting Lara over her potentially dying out here. Of course, this is going to stop the Tomb Raider herself, so she carries on towards the temple. Inside, she faces many booby traps, poisonous creatures, and giant statues that have came to life. My favorite part here is the environmental storytelling. Remember how Tony mentioned his buddies Rory and Randy being stuck in the temple? Once inside, you'll find them dead and magically suspended in air. Really creepy stuff. It makes you wonder how this even happened. Soon after, you run into Tony again. Tony somehow has magical powers and uses the Force to almost kill our beloved heroine. Tony manages to escape, but Lara chases after him on a quad bike that she spots in the distance. Lara finally corners Tony, but he goes full Super Saiyan and starts shooting fireballs and levitating. After taking him out, he drops the artifact Lara had been searching for. She leaves the temple and bumps into Dr. Willard. Before I go on, I just want to say I love the facial expression she gives off here. Dr. Willard explains to Lara that the Infada artifact isn't the only one of its kind. Lara doesn't fully trust him, but listens anyway. Created by the Polynesians who once lived in Antarctica, they made them out of this fallen meteorite. In 1834, Charles Darwin set up a group of sailors to be on an expedition near the Antarctic region. Bored out of their mind and hungry, they searched the ice block for some tasty game. They found a cave with 4 artifacts and a strange carving before getting attacked by a wolf. Barely escaping with their lives, they managed to make it out, but with one of the crew members having lost their life. Willard explains that the explorer Stefan sold his artifact in London after seeing his friends dying off with theirs. Lara, motivated by treasure and adventure, agrees to travel around the world searching for these missing artifacts. In the South Pacific, Lara will fight through wildlife, navigating tricky terrain, as well as fighting off tribesmen who are not happy that Lara is in their home. Lara finds a half-dead man inside of a treehouse, who tells her that he and his crew crash landed nearby, and his poor state is due to the tribesmen being cannibals, and they're preparing him to be sacrificed to their god? Cannibals? I don't know, after hearing that, maybe they are happy that Lara is here after all. Lara does offer to help him, but he fears that his wounds will only slow her down and open her up to diseases crossing through the swamp. He accepts his fate, gives Lara a map to cross through the swamp, and asks her to look for his crew and help his men if she can. Lara finds his crew and their destroyed plane. They are being attacked by dinosaurs and Lara sets out to assist them. She ends up having to break into their plane and uses the turret gun from their ship to blast an opening forward, but not before having a shootout with some hungry dinosaurs. Lara then finds a wall depicting what happened to the Polynesians in Antarctica, when one of them pops out of the darkness. After telling Lara that she would be a good snack if he wasn't fasting, he explains that his people left the land due to strange storms, people mutilating themselves, and the birth of Maki, a Polynesian born without a face. One of Darwin's sailors did come here with the stone, but was eaten alive. Lara then heads off in search of the artifact. I really like the banter here. Lara isn't afraid of these cannibals. In fact, she even taunts that she may eat one of them instead. Lara now has to face her biggest foe yet, rapid waters inside of a flimsy kayak, full of weird booby traps and just, listen, I get it's a video game and they tried to make it challenging, but from a narrative standpoint, please explain to me who set these traps here and why, just why. She finds her way inside of a tomb, which is typical for Lara to be in, and here she has to fight off tribesmen, solve puzzles, and outrun boulders. But at the end, she finds herself in the Big Chief's room. Puna may have lightning, but Lara has her wits. She outsmarts him with her combat skills and takes the artifact over his disintegrated body. Now on to Nevada. Here, Lara fights and climbs her way through the desert and ends up at a dam. After missing this switch for over an hour, she blows her way through and then runs into a weird biker gang. Like, why are they even out here? She deals with them and steals their quad bike to jump over the fence. Lara miscalculates and ends up crashing. Knocked out, she gets picked up and taken by the military. Now in prison, she manages to escape with the help of her other inmates. but not before she gets stuck at this one door because Lara couldn't see this switch on the wall. She retrieves her weapons and boards a truck, taking her to Area 51. Once inside, she discovers an alien ship along with a few aliens and oddly some orcas too. Not sure why they're here, but it's pretty cool that you can go swimming with them. After boarding the ship, Lara has one last stance against the military, but outguns them and makes her way to escape with the artifact. Now we are in London, a familiar setting for our protagonist. Lara moves about the rooftops only to be shot at by some goon working for Sophia Elite. He tells Lara his family had been working for Sophia for multiple generations, but she's only 30 years old, and he probably looks like a cool 40 years old. Lara finds him to be full of crap and tricks him into being comically launched by a giant bell, sending him to his death. Lara is now in Aldwych, an abandoned maze-like train station full of goons and dogs that I'm pretty sure have rabies. After surviving being soft-locked, she falls deeper into the station and meets Bob. He explains that he was experimented on by Sophia. Tricked by a job opportunity, he ended up faceless, and after trying to self-delete himself, he couldn't seem to die. He decides to help Lara get to Sophia as long as she brings back some embalming fluid. So she heads off to the museum to find Sophia. Lara makes her way through the vending system and lands herself directly in Sophia's office. Lara is prepositioned by Sophia to be a cover girl, but Lara passes as she doesn't want to end up faceless like Bob. Lara tells Sophia she just wants the artifact, and of course she doesn't give it to her. They battle it out above the rooftops of London, and Sophia, shockingly, dies. With the final artifact in her hands, Lara heads to Antarctica. Of course, Lara can't catch a break and almost dies landing. Now on solid ground, or solid ice, she fights her way through the research crew and even finds a weird creature in a building that looked like it previously exploded. She finally finds Willard, the man that sent her on this grand adventure, enjoying a nice bowl of soup. Lara tells him about the mutated man, but he doesn't seem to care too much. He explains that these artifacts could get him to the core of the meteorite. He sees the power as something that could advance human evolution, while Lara tells him that he would have no control over what would happen if he were to mess with the meteorite. Seeing Willard for the madman he is, Lara attempts to stop him, but gets tripped by the good old table flip and grabs the artifacts from her. She chases after him and heads down to where the meteorite lies. Lara goes minecarting and runs into many mutated men. This is where the game's horror elements really shine down here. As she travels deeper into the mines, she finds an ancient tomb. Here, even more mutants attack her, and she must beat 4 trials in order to track down Willard. After beating each trial and finding a key, she catches up to Willard, but it's just too late. Willard activates the meteor and like a fool dives in. He emerges as a spider-like mutant, and he isn't friendly. Lara must grab each artifact in order to weaken him so she can take him out. Once every artifact is collected, the meteor comes crashing down and Willard is finally mortal. Well, mortal meaning that he can die, not that he looks human, because clearly he looks like this thing. One well-placed bullet and down he goes. Willard now dead, Lara finally escapes with the artifacts, but not before taking out a few of the leftover crew members. The story ends with Lara still in the helicopter and having a pretty cool dogfight. I really enjoyed Tomb Raider 3's story, and to me it's one of the best ones out of the trilogy. Having multiple smaller stories all connected to the main plot really added variety to the narrative. There are some things I do wish were explained and handled differently though. Like, why did Sophia put a hit on Lara, or how did she even know about Lara's existence? Why are the researchers attacking Lara on sight when she was invited to be here? That part I just really didn't get. Who was Bob referring to when he spoke of an Egyptian lady at the museum? Did Lara even get Bob his embalming fluid? My biggest issue is with Lara's attitude at times though. As much as we love Lara, I think it's fair to say that here we can describe her as an anti-hero. She really is just fixated on treasure hunting and adventuring. That's fine, especially in Tomb Raider 1 and 2, as there is a justification for her to kill those in her path. Wild animals and magical beasts is understandable to take out. Cultists trying to take over the world, mutants and evil villains hell-bent on their ideals who are essentially going to doom not just themselves but the entire planet for their ideals, I get why Lara has to kill them. In Tomb Raider 3, however, Lara kills security guards. These guards are just doing their jobs if we're being fair. Lara did trespass and is a criminal. She deserves to be in prison and she has no issue murdering people doing their job to get out. I just think they could have written in an excuse, you know. Maybe the military was planning on experiment on Lara and the prisoners, giving you a reason to explain why she was killing them. Then you got the security guards at the museum. Maybe they could have written in that Sophia told the security guards about Lara and they're out to kill her or something like that. Something to make it make sense. I just don't think it fits her as a character. I also don't like the line she said to Sophia. Sophia tried to kill Lara and she's been experimenting on people against their will. Lara says she doesn't care and just wants the artifact? Excuse me? Lara loves treasure. That we all understand, that we cannot deny. But we have seen over the years how she acts when someone tries to not only kill her, but is planning on doing some evil stuff to the entire world. She goes from being just a treasure hunter that loves adventuring to becoming a hero. You know, kind of like how she does at the end of this game and every other game before it. Lara didn't even kill the cannibal tribesman that was talking to her, which you could argue would be a justification because who knows if this guy will ever pop up and just try to eat her. But she left him completely alone. So Lara clearly has the ability to know when to attack and when not to attack. So I just think it's weird that they were writing in situations where she basically has to kill the innocent. Lara can be cold and calculated at times, but murderer, I just never saw that in her character. She still does the right thing in the end, but these few blemishes do reshape her character for me. The future games in the series may continue in this direction, but I hope they don't. Either way, the damage is already done. Tomb Raider 3's most distinct gameplay element is the ability to select where Lara goes on her adventure. This idea came from another planned project for Tomb Raider 2. The Further Adventures of Lara Croft was meant to be an expansion for Tomb Raider 2 made up of 7 different levels. This was to be developed by a team that was made just for expansions, which sounded great on paper. Since 1996, there have been back-to-back Tomb Raider games releasing, and sometimes not even a full year later. People were leaving core design due to creative differences and heavy levels of crunch. You might be wondering what the base team would have been working on while the expansion team was working on Tomb Raider 3. And wouldn't it be crazy if I told you that they were actually working on Tomb Raider 3? You might be confused, and you should be, as the main core design team sure was when they learned that Eidos had the team working on the Tomb Raider 2 expansion, turned that idea into what we know as Tomb Raider 3 today. According to Gavin Rummery, a programmer on Tomb Raider 2, he said they only learned of Tomb Raider 3 when it was announced for the PlayStation to the public. The original idea for Tomb Raider 3 was for it to have a new engine, survival mechanics, and be developed for the PlayStation 2. This betrayal was not appreciated. They did bring up their grievances, but due to the heavy crunch from Tomb Raider 2, they realized that they really weren't coming up with many new ideas for Tomb Raider 3. So they did drop the issue. It would have been cool to see this survival interpretation of Tomb Raider 3 that was planned, but I'm actually glad that we got the version we did because I enjoyed it so much. Although not exactly what they had in mind, we did get some version of Lara in a survival setting with the 2013 reboot and its sequels. I really do love these games and appreciate their hard work, but at the same time, corporate greed put those responsible for Tomb Raider in an unhealthy cycle that should have never occurred in the first place. Over the years, Lara had been portrayed as an intelligent, cunning, and witty action heroine. Well, if you've only played the games, you will see her that way. Anyone that may have seen her in advertising and game magazines may get the wrong impression of our world-famous adventurer. Now, I'm not against sexualized characters in games, but just like how I found it odd that Lara killed innocent people in this game, I think the lengths they went this time around with the eye candy is a bit out of character. This has been an ongoing battle between Core Design and their parent company, wanting to push Lara as a sex symbol. And for years, she was that in the eyes of many. And the renders and advertisement at the time was pushing for that. At this point, I think people accept this as part of the times, but anyone that didn't grow up in the 90s would probably be wondering why Lara Croft is half naked in official artwork. There are some more modern day issues that may offend some players too with the Remastered collection. In this collection contained a message warning people of offensive content that you may see in the game. This content is directly linked to Tomb Raider 3. Warning for anyone sensitive to certain subject matters. You may skip ahead if you want, but I'm gonna be real with you, it's really not that big of a deal. In Tomb Raider 3, there's this line right here.
I don't want to be misrepresented by that retarded research you've just been with.
And there's also the entire South Pacific world with the cannibals. Now, if you buy the game today with all the patches installed, you will not see the warning message anymore, and you know what? Good. People complained about it and thought it was low class, and I'm glad that they removed it. I'm old, guys. I'll be 30 this year, God willing, and I just think it's a bit weird to say we don't stand by this, because that's what the message says. But what we're going to do is we're going to sell you the game, put our name on it, then tell you we don't agree with any of it, but buy our game. To me, that sounds pretty slow in my head. Now for the cannibals. A quick Google search will tell you that yes, there are real-life Polynesian tribes that practice cannibalism. So the question is it offensive to put a real representation of certain, emphasize the word certain, people that literally exist inside of a video game? Now, I don't get into politics on this channel unless it involves video games and is relevant to the subject at hand. This video is long enough as it is, so all I'm gonna say is this. There are people that are currently being protected in media, but not in real life. So personally, all this stuff to me is just virtue signaling bullcrap. Because guess what? There are no tribesmen that are gonna one day play Tomb Raider 3 and say, wow, I'm offended that they put cannibal tribesmen in a game when we are cannibal tribesmen. Come on, guys. It's just really ridiculous. Like, I get it, corporate, you're trying to protect your image and you don't want to get canceled on Twitter by certain groups of people that make everything offensive. But at some point, you just got to ignore this stuff. Tomb Raider 3 reviewed well with a 76 on Metacritic. Many reviewers just felt enough wasn't different, and I can understand that. But I'm also one of those weird people that don't mind when I like something, it doesn't drastically change, so that's my opinion on that. I'm sure the yearly releases of Tomb Raider gave players some burnout, but you could have just waited until you were ready for another adventure with Lara instead of buying them every year, so that's not really a factor in my head. Then there are other people that just really felt like Tomb Raider 3 was extremely hard. Now, as I was playing the game on the Remastered, I didn't really understand this at all. But as I did my research, I realized why that is. Both the Remastered version and the PC version always had manual saves at any time. The PlayStation version, however, used those blue crystals so that you could save your game. I could see this being annoying because a lot of these are spread far apart, hidden, or even near death traps. If I ever played Tomb Raider 3 on New Game Plus, I'll probably agree with them that it probably was annoying to have these crystals here on the PlayStation 1 version. As for me, I really love Tomb Raider 3. It took the best of both Tomb Raider 1 and 2 and blended them together with better AI, diverse locations, and puzzles. A good story that might just be as good as the first game's story, and my favorite part of the whole game, the monkeys. The remastered version does have its issues with lighting and that Aldwych soft lock situation, but as it being the most convenient way to play Tomb Raider 3, I would recommend this version to anyone on modern platforms. I finally played all the main games in the Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered collection, and I sure got my money's worth. I still have the expansions to play, and one day I'm sure I'll cover them on the channel. As a newcomer to this classic franchise, I'm glad I gave these games a chance, and anyone that didn't grow up playing the original trilogy should give them a go as well. As much as I love Lara Croft, it's time I take a break from her. I've been playing all these games and I'm just so glad that there aren't any new Tomb Raider games dropping because then I have to cover them in... Oh.